The core of the deck, you know, that might look familiar. Monastery Swift Spear and Slickshot Show-Offs, those are standard inclusions that can grow when you play a lot of non-creature spells. But then Boss's list has the unique combo angle of Scale Up, which sets a creature's base power to 6. And then there it comes, Assault Strobe, giving it double strike. So, oh yes. So for example, with Soulscar Mage on turn 1, you can play both cards on turn 2 to create an 8-power double striker, add a Mutagenic Growth for the fraction mana, and you can deal lethal damage as early as turn 2. Turn 2! On a later turn, I mean, Monster's Rage can also give Trample to push past blockers. But this is an awesome take on the Gruul Prowess archetype. On the other side of the table, there's Charles Eiler playing 4-color Nadu. Now, we've seen Nadu decks already a bit. It joins up with Shuko to effectively draw your entire deck, you know, generate mana with all your lands along the way, and then eventually win the game with endurance loops. The Black Splash is mainly for Orcish Bowmasters, which in this matchup could ping down Dragon's Rage Channeler, just provide chump blockers. After sideboard, Black also unlocks Fatal Push, which, very importantly, could take down the Harsh Mentors, already mentioned them, that Brian Boss will surely bring in for this matchup. So ultimately, there's going to be a race. It's combo versus aggro, and I'll tell you, this could be a very fast one, Maria.
All right, well, let's find out what happens. Will it be GG on turn 2? Cedric and Corey are in the booth with the call for the round with the cool decks.
Well, we can only hope so, because we want to see something really awesome happen here in round number fun. That's what I'm calling this round.
That's a good one.
Because these are where all the cool decks are going to try to do their thing and show that Modern is capable of, as Frank said, basically anything. Cedric Phillips, Corey Baumeister, we are here in the booth. We're here in Amsterdam, too, which is not a bad place to be, if I do say so myself.
Sweet place, for sure.
We've seen some Nadu. We've seen a little Necro Dominance. We're still trying to get our eyes on Ruby Storm over the course of this weekend. But for now, apparently, we're going to do some showing off, maybe, in Gruul?
Yeah, we're going to have some sugar, spice, and everything nice this round.
So.
We got some really nice deck lists here ready to go from you, and I'm really excited to see Gruul. We've seen decks like this in the past, but definitely not with this angle of attack, with Scale Up, giving a double strike. Really a unique take on this deck.
Now, one thing that you can do in a combo format is you can try to kill the opponent faster than they combo, right?
Yep.
So a way to do that is just play something that is hyper aggressive, which is what Brian Boss is bringing to the battlefield here this round with Gruul Prowess, which is a deck, as Frank did mention, can kill you as soon as turn number 2, depending on a specific draw. But it's a deck that can absolutely kill you on turn number 4, and I think turn number 3 could happen quite a bit too. So you're going to see a Monastery Swift Spear, a couple copies, excuse me, Mishra's Bobble. That means a couple of Prowess triggers and attack here for 3. So Boss is at 18 because of the Stomping Ground. Charles Eiler, 17 because of the damage, and now a couple of Bobble activations, Corey.
Yeah, and we'll unpack Charles's hand here in a second, but for Brian, we do see the combo. There's Scale Up and Assault Strobe already. So if we can find a land, since there was already 3 damage dealt, you know, that's up to 7, that's up to 8, that's 16. I guess that is 1 short, so might need a little bit more help here.
No, 1 short's fine, bro.
Yeah.
1 short's fine.
There's a nice land
that's
across
a Verdant
the way.
Catacombs. One short is great. So,
Stone Rain plus attacking?
Yeah.
That's my kind of deck.
that is totally fine. So here's the thing about this particular tournament that we're playing in. We're not playing in a tournament, right, where you have to worry about cards like Fatal Push, other Lightning Bolt, just like Unholy Heat, just like 1 mana cheap interaction. This format is not about Solitude. Of course, we're open deck list, as was mentioned by the news desk.
Yeah.
So you kind of know you're basically clear for takeoff if you're Brian against a lot of matchups. And this is what makes Brian's deck very interesting coming into the weekend, which is if you don't have to worry about those cheap removal spells, you can just play a deck that is very all-in like this and just go, yeah, you're not playing Fatal Push, so I'm going for it.
Exactly. I mean, this deck is definitely as close to a combo deck as an aggro deck gets. So going to be really interesting to see if he kind of goes for that line, decides to take a little bit more conservative line with some of the 3 prowess creatures that he just drew.
Well, here is a Monastery Swift Spear, so there's a second one of those. Brian's going to come across here for, it looks like, just 2.
15.
No big fireworks so far. Looking like we're going to save it for next turn.
I'm going to fetch to 14.
And it looks like it's still going to work pretty well next turn. There's the Orcish Bowmaster, which can represent 2 blockers. But the one thing that these Prowess decks have done in the past is draw a decent amount of cards. You know, the Is It Prowess list kind of thing, where Bowmaster is actually pretty good. Here, you're not really drawing too much cards with this deck from Brian. You are getting the cards that you drew, and you're comboing off with them to deal yourself some lethal damage.
You know, the way Modern has changed since the introduction of Modern Horizons 3, which of course has not been around particularly long, but you know, cards that we expect to be very good in Modern have been lessened a little bit. Orcish Bowmasters might be at the top of that list.
Yes.
You know, it's a card that has been very dominant since its printing, and of course we saw it win Pro Tour The Lord of the Rings in the hands of Jake Beardsley last year in Barcelona. But given the introduction of this new set, Modern Horizons 3, and how much it has changed things, I'm not saying Orcish Bowmasters is bad, because that's a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
But what I would say is I think it's gotten worse.
It's definitely gotten worse. There's not a lot of X ones that are being played right now, too, like these Bant Nadu decks, these 4-color Nadu decks. You know, it's not that great in the mirror. It's all Delighted Halfling, stuff like that. Nadu's not drawing cards, you know, and yeah, it just does not look as impressive.
Charles is going to play an island and a Shuko and simply pass the turn back over to Brian Boss, who will draw a card, and maybe it's time to go for broke here. We'll have to see. He's having a stomping ground. Scale up has been brought forward, so there is a scale up. A couple Prowess triggers. There's the Assault Strobe. Smell you later. Brian Boss is going to win game 1 with the sauce. Gruul Prowess very quickly up a game. This is what we're talking about, man. This is a way that you can kind of beat these Nadu decks, especially if they're draw, maybe a little stumble, maybe a little fumble, which is just, I can run you over before you actually do your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see in the sideboard here from Brian, not only was that draw just fast enough to compete with Nadu without, you know, trying to do any other fancy tricks, you have Harsh Mentors here, and 3 of them if you want to slow down your game plan a little bit and maybe not win on turn 2, or at least cut some of the cards that really don't help you win on turn 2 as much, maybe like Lava Darts, and bring in a hateful card like Harsh Mentor, and then you still have the really high top end of being able to have these explosive draws with Scale Up and giving your creatures double strike.
Scalding Tarn here for Boss is going to search with Mountain. That's why he's fallen down to 19, while Charles Eiler is kicking things off with just a breeding pool that does enter the battlefield tapped, a Springheart Nantuko, Endurance, Court of Calling, Nadu, and a Pendlehaven there for Charles. So still missing the very powerful Shuko for the 1-2 punch in the 4-color Nadu deck. Boss's start very similar to last game with a Bobble and a Monastery Swift Spear. Going to activate that Swift Spear, take a look at Charles's top card, and not going to miss the trigger with the Bobble. Not something I can say I do well.
You miss them often?
We all do.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
Let's not act like we don't.
That's why we're here in the booth,
That's
you know,
right.
we miss those triggers.
Just a Pendlehaven there for Charles. We're going to head back over to Brian. Brian kind of the star of the show thus far in this matchup, though things can turn very quickly with this Nadu deck. It only takes one Shuko and a whole bunch of activations to put things back in Charles's favor. For now, Brian is going to sacrifice this Bloodstained Mire. It will be a stomping ground, as Boss will fall down to 16. We mentioned that Brian qualified for this tournament via adjusted match points, did a very nice job in Seattle at Pro Tour Outlaws of Thunder Junction. While for Charles, who is off to a nice 4-1 start here in his first Pro Tour,
Impressive.
top 8 finish at the United States Regional Championship in Dallas just a couple of weeks ago. So we have been seeing players in their first Pro Tour do quite well recently, and Charles is another one now, again, off to that 4-1 start, and not dead yet.
Not dead yet at all, though I will say Charles did have quite the slow draw. You know, we did see a mulligan there at the beginning, so nothing really, you know, to blame as far as, you know, you didn't really want to go to 5 just to get the perfect hand of getting a Delighted Halfling or something, but just shows the power of this Gruul Prowess deck where you're just under the gun immediately if you don't have a really fast start here.
Yep.
And as it stands right now, I mean, Brian has Scale Up, so I mean that represents so much damage on Slick Shot Show Off already. Plenty of chump blockers for the other one, so the double scale up is not going to work necessarily as great on the Swift Spear, but still looks like a 2-turn clock on the surface value here for Brian to close out this match already.
And that'll be a Sylvan Safekeeper now for Charles. So getting the base all set up for the old Nadu deck as we head back Brian's way.
Drew a Bobble, so one extra trigger there. Scale Up on Show Off, Scale Up on Swift Spear plus Bobble. That's +6 from Show Off, 12 for Show Off, and then I guess you knock the top of the deck. and hope that you have a lightning bolt here. You actually get to do a little library manipulation as well. You can either play that Stomping Ground or Scalding Tarn if you like the top of your deck or not. So it looks like we're a little short, and then Charles will have the opportunity to maybe find a Shuko or Court of Calling for the other combo piece of the Outrider and Core, and start it going.
It'll be a Stomping Ground that enters the battlefield untapped here via the Scalding Tarn for Brian. So Brian's going to fall down to 13. And you mentioned the Outriders on Core. It's a very nice Court of Calling target.
Yep.
Most versions that we've seen here this weekend are just playing one of those, so you're not entirely reliant on Shuko to go off. Court of Calling can certainly help you. In the meantime, let's talk scale up here. It's on the slick shot show off. Easy to say.
Yeah, there you go. You nailed it. Yeah, we'll see which one of us screws it up first here. That's the challenge.
So easy.
Will it go to 10 or bubble? Yeah, but does it not lose that? No, it doesn't lose that.
Yep, that is an additional modification onto the card. It's just the base tower. Base power, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, that can be a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
But we are going to, Charles is going to do the right thing here, which is a little unsure. Ask a judge, ask for the Oracle text, make sure that the power and toughness is appropriate. Again, scale off a little bit strange. Base power 6/4, prowess triggers. How does it all work?
Yeah.
So
Modern staples scale up here. Maybe not necessarily what everyone's used to.
depends who you are. So now here's another scale up on the Monastery of Swift Spear.
This is 12 in the air, and this is 9 on the ground.
I'd recommend a block on the Swift Spear for sure.
Smart. So there's the block there. The air is 12.
3? Yep.
Charles is going to fall down to 3. Now remember, Brian did sacrifice a fetch land, so the bobble trigger is a mystery card.
Upkeep, yeah.
So, could win right now. Oh, baby, that's why you have fetch lands in your deck,
That's
so you
right.
can be like, I don't want this top card. It'd be a lot cooler as a lightning bolt.
All right, well, there's a Court of Calling in response for 3. So what can this find?
Oh, I think it's going to find a little bit more camera time. That's about it.
Yeah, well, you might as well take a look, Ski. Maybe Charles has got something in here. He does have a Knight of Autumn. That from the board?
Sideboard right out of there.
How about it? All right.
Okay.
Take that.
We're playing Magic still.
So gain 4, go up to 7, down to 4 from the bolt resolving. There's still maybe a little more time. Take a draw here now, will Charles.
And Brian's got to be, especially if he ends up losing this game, he's still looking great. Any spell here will probably do it, but Brian could have avoided that a little bit. Could have waited on that lightning bolt.
That's how about this? How about an assault strobe there, pal? No lightning bolt necessary. That's gonna do it. Brian
baby.
Boss. We said he's got the sauce.